Rabbis told us, Kisi'irim alei deshe, like storm winds on vegetation, on grass. What does that mean? Ma si'irim halalu yordim al asavim upashpashim behem kedei shelo yatliu. These storm winds come and they shake up the vegetation so that it doesn't get old, it doesn't become wormy. You know, it's a natural process. The living things stay and the dead things, they get blown away. Kach heve mefashpesh b'divrei Torah shelo teshakchem. You must constantly blow storm winds over the words of Torah, so you shouldn't forget them. Kach amar le Rabbi Yaakov bar Chanina le Rabbi, and this is what Rabbi Yaakov, the son of Chanina, tells Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. Bo v'nefashpesh b'halachot. Let us constantly work over the halachot again. Bishvil shelo ya'alu chaluda, so that the words of the Torah will not become rusty. If you don't constantly revisit halakha, the danger is that halakha will become rusty, and rusty things break. Zohi hamidah hamehalechet al pnei kol hadorot. This was the attitude of our rabbis throughout all the generations. וממנה גדלה ורבתה הספרות ההלכתית דור דור תקופה ותקופה במידה כה רבה שאין בכל ספריות ההלכה והמשפט של כל העמים דוגמתה. They said, in this motivation of constantly revisiting halachot, reanalyzing halachot for ourselves, coming to new conclusions, weeding out older opinions that may not be accurate anymore. This is the reason why our rabbis never stopped writing works of halakha. If everything could have been codified in one point in time and we just stopped and we're happy with what we had, then there would be no need for any halachic literature. Says Rav Uziel, the reason why rabbis even study and write about halakha in the first place is to constantly revisit the halachot that we have. This is the purpose of those works. And he says there's no other nation that has as extensive of a library, legal library as the Jewish people do. Our desire is not to look for chadashot, not to look for new things, but to make sure that the Torah that we have is constantly updated. It's constantly kept in touch with reality. And this is the job of the posek. Look in the next section on page 4, bold, at the bottom right column. Hashofet, the rabbinic judge, or ha-posek ha-talmudi, or the Talmudic decisor. There's no really good word for posek in English. I'll tell you that the term posek doesn't mean what people think it means. A posek, I mean a lot of things about the word posek that people think a posek is and it's not. But let's say that the greatest character trait of a posek is the ability lifsok. What does that word mean? Do you know the word lifsok?
Lifsok?
Yeah.
To make psak, to decide halakha.
Right, well the lifsok, we'll use that word. What does it mean, lifsok? A posek.
To stop, like to psak is to like stop, to cease.
To stop, to cut, very good. Sof pasuk, it's the end of a pasuk. A posek is somebody who knows how to make decisions. Somebody who is indecisive, by very definition, cannot be a posek. There are many poskim, we call them in a nice language in the world of halakha, we call them mirei hahora'ah, those who are fearful of ruling halakha. And these people, you may know them, they're the ones that when you ask halachic questions to, well, I don't know, it would be better if you didn't, but you could. The people who answer halachic questions like that don't actually have any idea what they're talking about. Because halakha has to be decided. It's the curse that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai in the Talmud, Masechet Shabbat, tells us that one day, Yishotetu levakesh devar Adonai velo yimtzeu, they will search for the word of Hashem and they won't find it. And the rabbi said, what do you mean? Will the Torah ever be forgotten from the Jewish people? And he says, what do you mean will be forgotten? Of course it will be forgotten. How will the Torah be forgotten? Lo yimtzeu mishnah berura v'halacha berura b'makom echad. They won't find a clear approach to Torah study alongside a clear, decisive halachic path in the same place. Everybody will be full of what ifs and all kinds of fears and doubts, and nobody will actually know what to do anymore in halakha. Says Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, that's the generation when the Torah will be forgotten from the Jewish people. And by the way, I think the fear of an engineer saying, I can't smack my creation with a hammer, is because he knows that it's not going to stand up to the test of the hammer. And that's very telling. When you see Jews that are afraid with the... afraid of engaging with something outside of themselves, because they're really telling you that my Torah can handle your questions, my Torah can handle your test.
You can't ask that question. You can't even ask the question.
That's right. And our Torah is Torah emet talanu. We make a blessing with Hashem saying, this is a Torah of truth. Truth is going to stand up against anything. And it's a difference in mentality. Which does bring me to the next section here. And that is the job of the shofet, the job of the posek talmudi. What is their job description? HaShofet or HaPosek HaTalmudi eno yachol, he's not allowed, not permitted, he's not allowed lomar le'atzmo, to tell himself, or l'shoalav, or to those who ask him questions, b'chol she'ela shta'amod lefanav, in any question that comes before him. Nete sefer v'nechezeh, just grab me that book off the shelf and let's see what the book says. And I will rule, posek, I will decide the halakha based on whatever it says in that book. Lo zohi darkam shel baalei hora'ah, says Harav Uziel, that's not the way, that's not the method of those who are baalei hora'ah, those who rule halachot. Ela chovatam hi, their obligations, o la'ayen bimkora shel halakha, to look at the origins of the halakha. Levarra, ulavna, letzarefa, ulezakecha, to purify it, to reanalyze it, to clarify it, to rework that halakha. Lefi diotav hamekifot, based on that posek's own abilities, intellectual abilities and knowledge. Hakashato hanechona uzvarato hayishara ladun din emet leemuno uvlasuke shma'ata liba dilcheta. The posek has to make sure that he uses his judgment, his logic. But I'm using her. You should be aware by now already that the language of Chachamim is writing in masculine, but it's not limited to that. To make sure that when a person learns, they're reanalyzing the sugyot and coming out to the proper, truthful conclusion.